news, everyone.
This is Jake Ciely, and I'm the blown ACL that ruins your football season.
Let's get dangerous.
He's opening our minds to new ideas. Kill him!
You just made the list! Who are you talking to?
No one! Your mama! Shut up! Take your pick!
Take that, you bucket of bolts. Oh, I'm sorry, is that offensive?
You all know me, know how I make my living. You don't need a plan. You need a scheme. A cockamamie one.
Sure, we talk about it all the time.
Really?
No. Burn.
Game on, you ducks. It's a big draft weekend coming up, and we still have to talk tight ends, but more so this episode is going to be talking about strategies, rosters, league settings, all sorts of good things. So stick through everything, and maybe tight ends will be there at the beginning or the middle, the end, or well, I don't know. We'll find out, but it won't be the beginning because we're starting with strategy. I'll give you a few thought processes. Quarterback and tight end, since we are talking tight end, have the same strategy. I mentioned it on the quarterback show. I'm Ricky Bobby in it. Let's do it, guys. First or last. And really, first doesn't mean there's only one, obviously. But if I'm not tier one of both, we're thinking Brock Bowers, since we're talking tight ends, Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, and even Colston Loveland. Maybe he's in the mid to late third round, hopefully fourth, but that price keeps going up. Or if it's not Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, or Drake May, which people seem to not want anymore, which I don't get. But anyway, unless we see a tier 2 quarterback or tight end fall into that 6th round range, I'm generally not doing the 4th, or definitely not doing the 4th. I'm generally not doing the 5th round, maybe late 5th again. But I'll just wait till the end game. Like I said, same thing with quarterback. Give me some shots late. I'll talk about my favorite late picks later in the, there's a lot of late, in the episode. But that's the thought process on that. Handcuffs, let's talk about them. I know a lot of people want to go get their backup guys, especially if you drafted a Bijan Robinson or Jonathan Taylor, which looks like it might be Seth McGowan. But that's kind of the point here. You can look at it two different ways. Do you want to feel super safe and draft your backup handcuff? Or do you want to go more, again, first or last? And that's my process, is that if I'm drafting your handcuffs, everybody else's handcuffs, I have two shots at a running back, because if mine stays healthy, yours gets hurt, and I have two top 20 running backs. It's the riskier play, because if I don't have mine, if I draft Bijan Robinson and later on I draft Braylon Allen instead of Brian Robinson, I lose Bijan, I got a 0. But the thing is, when you draft your own, best case scenario, you're still net one running back, as in net one running back, where the upside is you potentially have two. So I go more for the two. That's being said, I won't completely ignore it. I did Harris's podcast, Chris Harris, great guy, his podcast. And if it is a Christian McCaffrey, and we clearly know it's going to be Kalen Black or Bijan Robinson with Brian Robinson, and I drafted those kind of guys, I'll steer into it a little bit more. But when it's muddy backfields, if the backup like a McGowan doesn't have the upside of Taylor to at least be a top 12 running back, I probably won't, and I'll look for other people's. Speaking of your bench, though, I think a big thing that people do is they waste their bench. They're drafting replacement level players in the 12th, 13th, even 10th round sometimes. The guys that are at best a wide receiver 4, at best an RB3. Hey, I could use them during my buys, or they'll be cool at some point. I might get 2 starts out of them. If that's your thought process, you're doing it wrong. Like, don't even draft those guys. And I'm not saying every single bench option should be a ceiling play. Your first 2 picks are still going to be quality players, your first 2 bench guys, unless you're playing in a 14-team league with 3 flexes or something like that. But you get my point there. I'm shooting for the upside. How does this running back get to the top 25? How does this wide receiver get to be a top 35, a top 10 tight end, a top 10 quarterback? Create that narrative. Figure it out yourself. Like, look at these situations and say, hey, is there a path to being the number 2 wide receiver in targets? Is there a path where if blank gets hurt? I just talked about the handcuffs. All these opportunities. Malik Willis has top 10 potential. Could it blow up in our faces? Absolutely. But at least we know the story of how he gets there. And that's why you stash the upside, because in week 11, when everybody else is going, man, I wish I would have had those guys on my team. How did they have them already? Or how is this talent so much already better than mine? It's because stashed names like that. Going back to quarterback and tight end, I will take 2 shots, especially at quarterback, to get those upside guys. Where I won't do it is if I did draft a tier 1 quarterback or tight end and some of the tier 2s, especially the 2-tier quarterbacks, but some of the tier 2 tight ends, I am not drafting a second of either. And I know people are going to be like, well, you just made the argument of the upside. Like, what if Malik Willis is top 10? The problem is you can go back to the year where Drew Brees and Matt Ryan were both top 3 quarterbacks, because a lot of people ended up with both, because I think it was Matt Ryan at that time. It was Matt Ryan. It was essentially free. And then you're left with the decision of, man, which one do I play every single week? You end up chasing your tail and picking the wrong one half the time. And then everybody's like, well, then you could trade for value. Nobody gives you proper value because it's quarterback and tight end, first of all. Second of all, they all know you want to trade said player, so they don't give you proper value. So you're kind of stuck. And I get it. Like, yeah, things could break certain ways, but I'm just not, because you didn't draft Josh Allen to ever bench him. You didn't draft Brock Bowers to ever bench Brock Bowers. And that's the biggest thing. Use those picks on your bench for running backs or wide receivers. Look if you stashed Mike Washington to this point already. You're in a much better situation. A few weeks ago, if you were stashing Marshawn Lloyd before the helium started blowing up that balloon where it's ready to pop, you're in a better situation. And speaking of that, and there's another one for you. Let's talk about the helium and chasing all that. I get it. Everybody wants to look like the smartest person. Everybody wants to be excited and pick all the breakouts. But be careful when it comes to that. You don't want to start overdrafting these players where now you're buying all the... I say don't buy all the risk a lot. And really what that means is that you're buying all of the potential downside, as in the player has to be their basically 99th percentile of outcomes to just return value, let alone any potential return on investment to get above value, that being said. Whereas like Luther Burden is a great one. This injury probably is a good thing for us, for being on the Burden train, is that we get decreased value now. But Burden was starting to creep into the 4th round. And I love Luther Burden as much as the next guy or woman. But the problem is that at that point, now he has to be at least a top 15, 16 wide receiver, and you leave no room for investment return. So get excited for your guys. It's always cool to get all the breakouts and look super smart, but don't buy all the downside. Couple more things. Defenses and those ungodly, their names shall not be said on this podcast ever. I wait till the last round or two, especially like if you don't have to draft either, I don't draft either. Stash those running backs. Go back to Mike Washington, Marshawn Lloyds, and all the rest of the world. Draft those players instead, and then wait till week 1 waivers roll around. Of course, if your waivers don't run before week 1, different scenario. But stash these running backs and wide receivers, and then go figure it out later. Defense, love the Ravens' early schedule, love the Chargers' first 2 weeks. Those are ones you can attack. Defenses are variable as it gets every single year. So I know people want the Texans or the Seahawks or something like that, but the last team to repeat is the number 1, and I know teams repeat inside the top 10, but it's for purposes of showing you. The last team to finish as the number 1 defense in back-to-back years, 2000 and 2001 Steelers. There's a lot of turnover even within season of defenses. And of course, the other one, I have the article on the site. I've proved it with just saying things, and I've proved it with the numbers that they don't matter. So add an extra flex spot, get rid of them if you still play with them. If you still love them, look, if you want to be crazy, be crazy. Play however you want. Play with 17 of them. Play with 2 flex spots and rookies only. Whatever you do, play how you like it. But that's the strategy behind those. IR spots, I know a lot of people don't like giving tons of free space on their roster, but let's be honest here. There's no reason to doubly penalize somebody just because they had bad injury luck. And for everybody out there, be like, well, then don't be smart about who you're drafting and don't draft all these injury rates. Like, you don't know who's going to get hurt. Everybody's injury prone until they're not, and everybody's healthy until they get hurt. Like, there's no way to know. So I have unlimited in one league. I have the max of 6 on Sleeper in another. IR spots should be there for everybody, forcing people to make terrible cut decisions just because they ran into bad luck, and then you get to benefit from it. It's crazy to me. So again, this is, if you want to play the other way, that's fine. I think out players, and maybe just because I had Brock, I had both the Brock. And who was the other player? I had another one. It wasn't Mike Evans. Somebody else. I had 2, 3 guys that were all top end players that all got hurt. They weren't placed on IR. The NFL doesn't place that many players on IR. Hell, let alone skill players. 1%? So IR only being for IR players, also kind of crazy. And sites like Sleeper, they don't let you manipulate your lineup or go for waivers if you have somebody that's not out in the out spot. So all that being said, let people have their IR spots. Another setup, I heavily recommend is doubleheaders against the median, is you get that extra matchup against the average score for the week in your league. It prevents the situations where it's like, I can't believe I scored 130 and faced the guy who scored 140. Meanwhile, these other two guys scored 90 and 92, and I would be both of them. It's just the random of the draw. Like, this isn't the NFL. You're not facing the person that you control facing that player in a head-to-head matchup. It's out of your control, and the randomness of what the schedule might bring is not another thing that should just go against you just because of that. So doubleheaders against the median, please play them. This is probably the most pushback I get. I like all play in the playoffs because of that. Basically, top scores advance. There are no matchups. Because of that point, again, the draw of one facing whatever, and how many times have you seen the worst case scenario, the team that snuck in, mostly because they have a team that's clicking at the right time, takes out the number one seed. I like all play. I like top scores only advancing the playoffs. Again, you don't have to play that. That one, if you still want to do matchups, and you're like, hey, you're dumb for doing that. That's just my preference. My also preference is to play in auction leagues because everybody has a chance at every single player. And here's some strategy behind auction leagues is throw out some players. Two things. Everybody throws out players they don't want early. That's the thing is that's where you can jump in. People are usually hesitant to buy in early. That's where you usually see, oh, the fifth best running back was cheaper than 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 because everybody was hesitant to take a player early or see what the room was going to be, because that's the other part. Everybody gives the advice to see how the room's going to be, see how it plays. And that was going to be my second point. I agree. Your league might skew towards running backs. It might skew towards top end quarterbacks or tight ends. So you do have to read the room and adjust. But sometimes that might mean vastly overpaying at one position and getting a ton of values later. So again, jump in early. You're going to get some values, and then you'll be able to play the game late that a lot of people do is going after those dollar players. Don't forget to leave yourself a little bit of a hammer, the hammer being you have the advantage of the most money left or at a position that you might need that others don't. And that's, of course, that strategy as well. Once you have decent running backs or decent wide receivers, or maybe you have your quarterback and you drafted a tier 1 quarterback, those are the names you should be throwing out, the things that you don't need, so people start spending their money. And then where I like picking in snake drafts, for the people still doing snake drafts, 1 or 2 has some appeal. Of course, you get Bijan or Jahmyr Gibbs, and I've liked how some of those teams have turned out. I really don't like 5, 6, 7, 8. Every team I've come out with has been like, yeah, that's cool, but I feel like I end up in a lot of spots where I'm like, man, I have to make the first call in a new tier, and I hate doing that because you get the least value return for you potentially. And I've really, really liked a lot of my 10th and 11th pick teams in a 12-teamer and a 10-teamer, 8, 9, really good. So that's my thought process there. It's not perfect. Any spot you have, you can draft a great team, and do not go into your draft with a preset strategy. You never know how the draft is going to fall. I love to get a running back in the first 2 rounds, preferably 2 in the first 3, because the drop off there is vast and you can see people falling by the day like Genty. So all that being said, I've come out of a draft and went 3 wide receivers in a row. Things will change. So don't predict the draft. Don't be like, I'm going to take this player in round 2 and this player in round 3. You just don't know who's good. I did an industry draft, my flex drafts in New York, both of them. JSN fell to the 9th pick in the first round. I was flabbergasted by both, but you just never know, because if I said get the best running back there, that would have been bad information, because JSN at 9 is glorious. So those are all the strategies. I think I pretty much hit on everything. Trades, obviously, don't insult them. Look at their teams and look at what they need and how you can fill their need before you send any trade offers. Sit on the other side of it. Like, would I be offended by this trade offer, or would I seriously consider it? If it's the second part, then you can send it. If it's the first, don't be that guy. And before I get out of here, like I said, tight ends, I'll give you a few names if you're waiting till the end game. And like I said, I'm probably still drafting only 1. I very rarely have taken 2 tight ends, but if you do want to wait till the end game, Isaiah Likely for the Giants, even more potential volume with the Calvin Austin injury. Not that anybody was like, oh my God, Calvin Austin, but was set to play the slot, was set to be the number 3. And with Malachi Fields, the rookie, looking like he's going to be the number 2, the real number 2, and maybe even the number 1 to start the season, looks like it's going to be likely. I know some of the snap counts were a little bit concerning for people out there when they saw just that part of it in the first game, but the snap count was more important. The fact that when on the field, it was almost a drop back route for him every single, I think it was all but 1 play. So that's the exciting part. He doesn't need to be on the field 95% of the time. Another one is Dallas Goedert, as Mekhi Lemon is still working his way back from injury and into that offense. He is a rookie, which is why I've taken a few flyers on Dontavian Wicks, by the way. But Dallas Goedert could start the season hot, get those targets and those touchdowns. Hell, the targets might be more than he's used to start the season. Juwan Johnson with the Jordan Tyson injury, one of the best values already, and even more so now with Jordan Tyson being out to start the season. Hell, you could probably find another tight end before that ride ends. You'll have plenty of time for that. And then lastly, the real answer for the Texans of who the number 2 is, the same as it was last year. Poured one out for Jaden Higgins that hurt my soul, but the answer is now not Jalen Knoll, not Tank Dell, not Sterling Shepard, or whoever else they might want to throw out there. Kayshon Boutte and all the rest. And I know Kayshon Boutte is going to attract a lot of attention, big playability, and I wouldn't be surprised if he can be Tank Dell-ish from 2 years ago. But I think the real answer here, more so half and full point PPR, I'd be a little less inclined to take Dalton Schultz in non-PPR. But Dalton Schultz as a free pick at the end of drafts. I know there's a lot of Greg Dulcichs out there, but I really do believe that Caleb Douglas is going to be the one or the two. Chris Bell will be the one or the two once he's up to speed 100%. I think he actually is the talent to be the one. I don't think Dulcich is going to be as involved as people might think. He might be an interesting streamer. But there you go. Upside on your bench, upside on your picks, upside on your life. I don't know what else can be upside to say, but we'll be back next week for more upside? Question mark? I'm Ron Burgundy.